Did you know that some places on Earth are so remote that only a handful of people have ever been there? Imagine standing in a place where no one has ever walked before, seeing things no one has ever seen. This is the kind of adventure that makes you feel truly alive. It was a cold, misty morning when Jack, a young adventurer, set out on his journey. He had been dreaming about this trip for years. In his backpack, he had only the essentials: a map, a compass, some food, and a flashlight. His goal was simple: to reach the hidden valley at the heart of the mountains, a place no one had ever explored. The locals warned him, though. They told him stories of strange sounds in the mountains, whispers carried by the wind, and shadows that moved on their own. But Jack wasn't scared. He loved the thrill of the unknown. As Jack walked deeper into the forest, he could feel the world growing quieter. Trees stretched high above, blocking the sun, and the air grew colder with each step. He looked at his map, but something strange happened. The map suddenly fell apart in his hands. Now, Jack was alone, with no guide. But Jack didn't turn back. He kept going, relying on his instincts. Suddenly, he heard a rustling sound behind him. He turned quickly, but there was nothing there. Maybe it's just my imagination, he thought, though his heart was racing. Then, he noticed something shining in the distance. It was faint, but he could see it through the trees. He took a deep breath and walked toward it. As he got closer, he realized it was an old metal gate covered in vines. The gate seemed to lead somewhere, but there was no sign of where it went or why it was there. Jack pushed the gate open, and it creaked loudly. Beyond it lay a narrow path, winding down into the darkness. He hesitated, wondering if he should turn back, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. As Jack continued down the path, he heard whispers all around him. It felt as though he was being watched. He tried to stay calm, but the shadows seemed to close in around him. Just when he thought he couldn't go any further, he reached a clearing, and what he saw took his breath away. There, in the center of the clearing, stood an ancient, towering tree. Its branches stretched far and wide, and its roots twisted through the ground like veins. And at the base of the tree, there was something unbelievable: a stone door, half hidden by moss and dirt. Jack knew he had found something incredible, but he also felt a strange sense of dread. This was no ordinary door. Jack stared at the stone door, his mind racing. Who had put it here? And what could be behind it? The door had strange symbols carved into it, symbols he'd never seen before. As he reached out to touch one of the carvings, his fingers felt a sudden chill, as if the stone itself was alive. With a deep breath, He pushed against the door. To his surprise, it slowly creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase that led deep into the ground. The air that escaped was cold and heavy, filled with the scent of earth, and something he couldn't quite place, a scent that felt old, ancient. Jack's heart pounded as he stepped onto the staircase, each step echoing in the darkness. With every step down, the light above grew dimmer until he was completely surrounded by shadows. But he kept going, his flashlight barely piercing the darkness around him. Finally, after what felt like hours, he reached the bottom. The stairs opened into a large cavern, and Jack's eyes widened at what he saw. The walls of the cavern sparkled with gemstones, their colors shining brilliantly in the dim light. And in the center of the room was a pedestal, holding a small glass vial with a golden liquid inside. Jack's curiosity grew. The vial looked magical, almost too perfect to be real. He stepped closer, reaching for it, but just as his fingers brushed the glass, he heard a voice, a soft whisper. "Why have you come here?" "Traveler," the voice asked, seeming to come from all around him. Jack froze. He looked around but saw no one. I came to explore," he said, his voice shaking. The voice spoke again, softer this time, almost sad. "This place is not meant for the living. Take the vial if you wish, but know that there is a price." Jack hesitated. A price? He wondered what the voice meant. But the desire for adventure burned stronger within him, and he couldn't resist. Carefully, he lifted the vial from the pedestal. The moment he touched it, the cavern began to shake. Rocks tumbled from above, and the floor cracked beneath him. He stumbled, almost losing his balance, and realized he had to escape now. With the vial clutched tightly in his hand, Jack turned and ran back up the staircase, his heart racing. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows growing darker, almost reaching out to pull him back. When he finally reached the top, he burst through the stone door, gasping for air. But something felt different. The forest was silent, the sky dark. It was as if time had stopped. Jack looked at the vial in his hand, feeling a strange sense of power. But as he held it, he felt something else, a faint, hollow emptiness. He had the treasure, the thrill he had always wanted, but he had left something behind, a part of himself he could never get back. Jack now understood the price of his adventure. As he stood there, looking at the mysterious vial, he wondered if he should open it. Would it bring him fortune, or would it take him deeper into the unknown? Jack stood in the eerie silence of the forest, clutching the vial, his heart torn between excitement and fear. The weight of his adventure felt heavier now, as if he'd stumbled upon a secret he was never meant to find. the forest felt different. It was quiet, almost too quiet, like it was watching him, waiting for his next move. He carefully opened the vial, curiosity getting the best of him. The golden liquid inside shimmered, swirling as if it were alive. He poured a single drop onto the ground. Instantly, a bright light shot from the vial, illuminating the forest and revealing shapes and shadows that moved just out of sight. Jack felt a strange warmth radiate from the ground, as if the earth itself was breathing. Then, something remarkable happened. The shadows gathered together, forming the shape of a tall, ancient figure draped in mist. The figure looked down at Jack, its eyes deep and wise, filled with the weight of centuries. "You found what others only dream of," the figure whispered, its voice like the rustling of leaves in the wind. "But with knowledge comes responsibility. Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" Jack felt a shiver run through him. He looked down at the vial, realizing that the liquid inside wasn't meant to be kept. It was meant to be shared, to bring light into the world. He nodded, feeling a sense of purpose he'd never known before. The figure reached out, gently placing a hand over Jack's heart. In an instant, Jack felt a surge of warmth, and he understood. This journey had been about more than just discovery. It was about finding the courage to face the unknown, to protect the wonders of the world rather than hide them. As the light began to fade, the figure's voice echoed one last time. "Remember, true adventure is not just about what you find, it's about what you give." The shadows disappeared, the vial now empty in Jack's hand. The forest returned to its calm, quiet self, but Jack knew he would never be the same. He felt a new strength within him, a sense of connection to the world and to the mysteries it held. With one last look at the path behind him, Jack turned and walked away, knowing his journey was far from over. He had faced fear, found wonder, and discovered a truth that would stay with him forever. Sometimes, the greatest adventure isn't about reaching the end, but about discovering the courage and wisdom within us along the way. What would you do if you found something that could change the world? Would you keep it or share it? Let us know in the comments below.